Tashdile and welcome to Tibet This Week. This is Sakina Bhatt with another edition of Weekly News on Tibet, His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Central Tibetan Administration. Let's look at the headlines. His Holiness the Dalai Lama welcomes European Union agreement. His Holiness the Dalai Lama gives teachings on Chandrakirti's entering the middle way. His Holiness the Dalai Lama and CTA condole passing away of John Lewis and Assam flood victims. China imprisons 2 Tibetans for song praising His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Joint project of Russian scientists and Buddhist monasteries invites monk researchers. Italian MP Bianchi questions Italy's position on China. China's seminars on Tibet, an attempt to save its face at UN, says Information Secretary CTA. Office of Tibet, Washington, D.C. receives Tibetan bike ride campaigner. His Holiness the Dalai Lama issued a statement congratulating the European Union leaders on the historic €750 billion recovery deal to rebuild European Union economies ravaged by the COVID-19 pandemic on Tuesday this week. His Holiness said the European Union has once again demonstrated the importance of common interest, adding that the model was an inspiration for all by putting forth common interest and mutual cooperation even in the face of worst challenges. His Holiness the Dalai Lama gave a 3-day teachings on Chandrakirti's entering the middle way on request of Nalanda Shiksha on Friday last week. Speaking on Buddha Shakyamuni's 4 Noble Truths, His Holiness said that no sentient beings with feelings wants to encounter suffering, and that is why Buddha taught about suffering first.
Nirodha. Nirodha is complete elimination about the source of suffering, cause of suffering. Then, 4th, marg, path. So now important is we have to analyze or investigate the cessation of all these the negative emotion because the negative emotion is the causes of suffering.
On the second day, His Holiness suggested that Sanskrit is regarded as a learned language and it would be worthwhile reading both Nagarjuna's and Chandrakirti's text in Sanskrit. His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Central Tibetan Administration offered condolences on the passing away of US Congressman and civil rights icon John Lewis. In his condolence letter, His Holiness expressed his sadness by remembering and praising John Lewis's principal commitment to non-violence and justice. CTA President Dr. Lobsang Singye and Speaker of Tibetan Parliament in Exile Pema Chungne, on behalf of Central Tibetan Administration and Tibetan people, expressed deep condolence over the sad demise. His Holiness expressed solidarity with people who lost their lives in the recent flood in Assam, northeastern state of India, and made a donation from the Dalai Lama Trust towards relief and rescue efforts. The Chief Minister Sarbananda Sonowal promptly responded to the kind gesture with a tweet thanking His Holiness. 2 Tibetans named Condole and Tsego were sentenced to 7 years and 3 years in prison, respectively, by a Chinese court in northeastern Tibet in early July this year. The duo was sentenced under the false charges of state subversion and leaking state secrets after they composed, sang, and circulated a song in praise of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. According to Tibet Times, a Tibetan language media, the lyricist Condole and the singer Tsego and an unnamed Tibetan woman were detained in 2019 after a song in praise of His Holiness the Dalai Lama circulated on Chinese social media. Monk researchers are invited to enroll for training and further work on the joint project of Russian scientists and Buddhist monasteries aimed at studying the altered states of consciousness and the Thukdam phenomenon. The initiative is based on His Holiness the Dalai Lama's idea that the Western scientific methods of studying meditation should be applied by the followers of Buddhism themselves in collaboration with Western researchers. In September 2019, 8 monks from these monasteries have already completed training in Russia under the Middle Way approach in neuroscience program. Another group of monk researchers have been completing their studies on the spot and will join the project in autumn 2020. On Monday this week, the Italian lawmaker Matteo Bianchi questioned the Italian government over its position on China and asked, "Is silence necessary?" Bianchi, who is also a member of Italian Parliamentarian Group for Tibet, expressed concerns over China's destruction of Tibetan culture and presented a recent case of Chinese authorities' order in destroying Tibetan prayer flags under the so-called behavioral reform campaign. CTA's Information Secretary Tsawang Gyalpo Arya said that these ostentatious seminars on Tibet are nothing more than an attempt to save its face at the ongoing 44th regular session of the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva.
The Chinese government, they have organized 2 seminars in Beijing and in Chongqing city of China, in which they have said that they have made a lot of development in Tibet. There is human rights, there is religious rights. But all this is wrong and misleading and not true. So why China is doing this right now is that right now there is a 44th UN Human Rights Council session going on in Geneva, in which more than 50 UN experts, they have made submissions and then they called about the gross human right and religious right violation in China, Tibet and East Turkestan and other regions. So in order China has organized these 2 seminars in order to make us as a face-saving measures and to give a reply to the UN. But this is not true and false. And China should instead pay attention to the petitions that these 50 UN rapporteurs they have made, and then they should stop organizing these kind of fictitious seminars on Tibet.
The CGTN, one of China's official mouthpieces, has reported that China recently organized seminars on Tibet in Tongqing and Beijing on 14th and 15th July, respectively. The themes of the seminar at Tongqing were Tibet's social development and human rights progress, and achievements and prospects for Tibet's eradication of poverty. On Monday this week, the Office of Tibet, Washington, D.C. received a former political prisoner, Tao Lobsang Jinpa, who was on a bike ride campaign for Tibet. Tao Lobsang started his 530-mile bike ride from Boston to Washington, D.C. nearly 2 weeks ago to raise awareness about the oppressive conditions in Tibet under the Chinese Communist Party. So much for today. See you next time and have a great weekend.